Kano here. How are you today? I am in the middle of the process of updating my palette. Yes, it's a continual process and it's a continual obsession. And if you remember from my flip through of the color swatch folder that I have, I swatched out all of the Daniel Smith colors that were available on their 240 color dot card sheet. And I encountered a lot of new paints that were fascinating and beautiful that I wanted to add to the palette. However, one of the problems was because Daniel Smith does have like around 250 different colors, some of them can actually be very similar in look, and it's quite hard to tell just from making a little swatch card or on the dot card what the actual difference is and whether you could just have one or the other, or it's useful to have both on the palette. And I asked around the YouTube art community on, which pairing of colors they would pick. And what I discovered was that most people would use one and know it really well and absolutely love that color, but never tried the other one because they are so similar. So I was struggling to find out answers on the differences between the two colors and how to pick one or the other, or is it worth having both on your palette. And you know me, when I can't find the answers I'm looking for, I always end up experimenting. I thought it would be fun to share with you guys my journey in trying to learn the differences between these colors and whether I'm going to pick one or the other or both. Before I move on to testing our first pair of colors, I just wanted to go over what I will be testing these colors through for this series. I've made a sheet like this for every color that we're going to test, and it's going to cover the name, brand, the pigment and what's in them, the series, opacity, light fastness, and then this is going to be where I go from like a mass tone and gradually water it out, and so we can see how well it gradates in intensity. This is on a Buckinghamwood cold pressed paper, but I also wanted to see how the paint would act on different kinds of paper surfaces, so I have also put a Buckinghamwood hot pressed paper here, a Buckinghamwood rough pressed paper here, and I know you guys love the Archer's cold press, so I also put that in here. I've just taped it on so that we can see how each color would behave on different paper. I'm also going to be testing the opacity, lifting and glazing here, and you know me with my gauze, I have to test it, so a little area for the gauze testing. I am also going to be mixing each color with the colors around the color wheel, and that is going to be Aurelian by Holbein, Quinacridone Gold by Daniel Smith, Cadmium Red Orange by Holbein, Scarlet Lake by Holbein, Quinacridone Rose by Daniel Smith, Quinacridone Violet by Holbein, Ultramarine Violet by Schmincke, Ultramarine Blue by Dan from Penholder Art UK, which is my absolute favourite ultramarine blue, Phthalo Blue Yellow Shade by Holbein, Phthalo Turquoise by Daniel Smith, Hooker's Green by Holbein, and Permanent Green number 1 by Holbein. And I've also left a space for any other little testing I might want to do specifically to that color. So all the colors will go through the same testing, and then at the end of each video we will compare the two colors. So let's get painting. Now, when you carry out a test of your own, it's quite important to use paints in the state that you always paint in, and I paint from a palette with the paint poured out previously. I like to leave it overnight, and so for this series I will be using poured paint that has been dried for a few days. And for the first episode in this series, I am going to test out a very popular pair of paints that a lot of people absolutely love, but they don't really know the difference between the two or how to pick between the two. I myself don't know which one I'm going to pick yet because they are so similar. However, they are fantastically beautiful colors that are totally worth investigating in. One is Moonglow by Daniel Smith, and the other is Shadow Violet by Daniel Smith. They're both series 2, so there's no price difference between the two. Both colors are a mixture of Viridian and Ultramarine Blue. The only difference between the two is that Moonglow has Anthraquinone Red as part of the color mix, and Shadow Violet has Pyro Orange as part of the color mix. So any difference we'll see in this test will be due to those two colors. First up is Moonglow, and Jackson describes this paint as a complex violet hue composed of Anthraquinone Red, Ultramarine Blue and Viridian Grey. This product is the one to choose when painting a moonlit night, a sunset snow scene, or the long evening shadows. The light fastness is classified as excellent, and it should be transparent and granulating with low staining. Second color we're going to try today is Shadow Violet, and on Jackson website it says Shadow Violet is a deep warm violet that becomes grey mauve wash when added to water. A hint of orange can be perceived in Shadow Violet when it is used in thin applications. This product's transparency makes it a good choice for glazing or painting subtle shadows. It's classified as excellent light fastness, transparent, non-staining and granulating. Welcome back. The paints have dried and we have Shadow Violet here and Moonglow here. Overall first impression, you'll notice that the Moonglow is a much deeper, darker, purpley color, whereas the Shadow Violet is a more neutral color. Taking a closer look of the gradation, they are both really nice. The only difference is that the Shadow Violet, which has the Pyro Orange, has a orangey undertone, and the Moonglow, which has the red undertone, has a more pinky undertone, and that the Shadow Violet is more neutralized than the Moonglow. Looking at how the two paints behave on the 3 additional papers, they behave in pretty much the same way, that the colors separate out, and you can see more of that separation well defined in the rough paper than the cold press papers. Although I have to say, even in the hot press you can really see a lot of granulations. As for opacity, I would say they're pretty much both transparent. They lift easily and they glaze well, but I don't think you gain anything from glazing. The color doesn't get any more beautiful or any more not as beautiful by glazing, so it can be done, but I don't know whether that's something that would be useful to do with these two paints. Now for gauze effect, they both do beautiful job because of the two difference in color. The undertone, the Anthraquinone Red, comes out in the Moonglow, and the Pyro Orange comes out in the Shadow Violet. So if you're picking it for the gauze, I think you would pick it for which color you'd want to have in the background of the gauze effect. Now looking at how the two colors mix with other colors around the color wheel, this is Moonglow and this is Shadow Violet. Now because they're both purpley color, they're never going to mix very well with the yellows and the oranges. However, the Moonglow does do like a lovely unique effect with the Aurelian that I was really surprised with. The ugliest one is when you mix Shadow Violet with Quinacridone Gold. Don't do this, it's just not pretty at all. They predictably do well in mixing with other pinks and purples, although I don't think you gain much from mixing the Moonglows and Shadow Violets with the Ultramarine Violets or the Ultramarine Blue, because you're just adding more ultramarines. The blues are nice and the greens are nice. If I had to pick a side in terms of this row, then I would pick the Shadow Violet, just because it produces a little bit nicer mixes. But in all, because they both have 3 pigments each already, they're not the most mix friendly of colors. So in summary, I think the decision-making points will be on whether you want a more intense, cooler purple or a more subtle, orangey, earthy, more neutralized purple for this particular effect of having this granulating purpley deep color, and whether you want a red undertone coming through, which is a cooler red, or you want a more warmer look to your palette. Now, if you intend on mixing a lot with other colors, I would pick the Moonglow just because it behaved a little bit better than the Shadow Violet, and never mix Shadow Violet with the Quinacridone Gold because it's not pretty. I would say they are one or the other kind of shopping choice because they are so similar, with just a subtle difference in the mass tone and the undertone, that I would struggle to justify having both on the palette. However, it would definitely be a fun color to have either one of them. As for which one am I gonna go for, I think I would go for the Moonglow, just because I am interested in collecting some deeper, darker colors for my palette rather than the more muted colors for my palette. I'm also in love with the mix that you get from mixing the Aurelian by Holbein with the Moonglow. That is something I want to capitalize on. So I think I will be putting the Moonglow in my palette. Please let me know which one you'd go for. Would you go for the Moonglow or the Shadow Violet? And let me know why you'd pick one or the other. If you have any questions about either of these colors, then please ask away in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell as well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.